Well, good morning and welcome to the Monday, October 17th meeting of the Police Services Board. I note that Mayor McNamara will be a bit late. I've just got a note on me. Will be a bit late. He's got an announcement with regard to EMS services in the county. Paul's here now, and then Mark Gomes is on vacation, and we note that Inspector Angela Ferguson is on training. We welcome Alicia Beauchamp, who's here as as Detective Sergeant Beauchamp, who's acting as a staff sergeant, and of course Jamie Smith here acting as our detachment commander. So that's a good thing. It's a good start. Under item C of our disclosure of pecuniary interest with regard to the agenda today, is there any disclosure? Seeing none, I'll move on. Under item D, the approval of the agenda, that the agenda for the Police Services Board meeting dated Monday, October 17th, 2022, as duplicated and delivered to the members, be accepted. I'm looking for a mover, please. Thank you, Paul. Seconded. Joe, all in favor? It's all of us. Good. Thank you. Moving on. Approval of our previous minutes, that the regular minutes of the September 8th, 2022 meeting of the Police Services Board meeting will be as duplicated and delivered to the members thereof be adopted. I've read them. I'm looking for a mover. Paul, seconded by Joe. Thank you. And all in favor? Passed. Thank you. I read them. There was nothing in it. We have no delegations today. So that takes us right down to Jamie's report. Jamie, are you making, now as detachment commander, are you making the report or are you shuffling that off to someone else?
No, Mr. Chair, I can take care of that. I'm just hoping you guys can hear me all right. And if you can,
5 by 5.
Put up your hand.
Yep, 5 by 5. Jamie, as always, I would ask you to quote the page so that as we're sharing the screen with the report, we can make sure we're keeping up with you. Please proceed.
Perfect. Thanks, John. Good morning, everyone. Mr. Chair, if you just want to slide it down there, or Tecumseh might be on top there, Sean, above Lakeshore. No? There we go. Okay, so for the top calls for service for the month of August, I'll be presenting that report. MVC is at 56, and we have the property checks at 55, and those are those proactive approach to our officers going out and sitting in locations that have been targeted by thieves. The alarms are still pretty high, and traffic complaints at 34. If you want to flip over there, Sean, to page 5. So for total calls for service for Tecumseh, we're up a little bit from 2021. We're at 499 compared to 416. And we have seen an increase in calls for service across the board at about 6.7% increase. If you want to flip over again, Sean, to page 6, we're going to. For violent crimes, we did see an uptick there. We have seen that across the board at 17.6% increase. And I apologize, I didn't have an opportunity to check this out prior to getting on this meeting. I was looking at the September report initially. I can always follow up if need be. And just below that, the property crimes, we've seen a bit of a decrease for July, down to 37 from 55 the year before. And we are getting targeted quite a bit with property crimes. There seems to be a couple of people that are out and about right now that have been targeting. The home hardware was hit. We've had some other yards throughout the county that have been hit where tools have been stolen and whatnot. If you can go to page 7. Motor vehicle collisions increased there, 3.5%. We saw an increase here in Tecumseh up to 56 from the previous years. Happy to report no fatalities in August. On page 8 here, our impaireds. We had one in Tecumseh in the month of August. We have been seeing a decrease, and I think last time I was on, we spoke in regards to ride programs. We've been seeing an increase in our ride programs, which could be helping in that area with the public seeing us out there quite often. Driver's license suspensions. We had one in Tecumseh, and that would be related to the impaired driving. If you can go over to page 9. Not sure if you guys can still hear me there. I think I lost a connection briefly. On page 9 with the criminal code charges in YCJA, Tecumseh's sitting at about 13. Drug offenses, we just had some under the Cannabis Control Act. That most likely is stemming from a vehicle stop where somebody had it readily available within their vehicle. POA charges for Tecumseh. We're seeing a bit of a decrease there for August, down to 42. For our stops in Tecumseh, we had 72 stops with 42 tickets and 21 warnings. And then you can go over, Sean, page 11. In mental health response calls, we are seeing a big increase here at 91% increase across the board. And Tecumseh, you can see we almost doubled from last year. That's keeping our officers pretty busy. 911 hangups, those are relatively low. Once again, sitting at 7. And then page 12, the false alarms, we're still, it's steady there. It is saying a decrease overall, but 46 in Tecumseh, we usually seem to be sitting around 50. You can see in our ride programs in Tecumseh, we had 7. Foot patrol hours, 95 hours there. We're topping throughout the county in Tecumseh. The bike and ATV patrols, we have 0. You can see in Essex there, we have 7. We just trained one of our members to train other members on the bicycles. So I'm hoping this will, increase our patrol hours throughout the county now that we have somebody in charge of this program and maintaining the bicycles and whatnot. Auxiliary hours, we have 0 in Tecumseh. And I think there's been conversation in the past. Our auxiliaries, we're down quite a bit right now. We normally have 44 members. We're down to about 14 and 10 that are active at this current time. So if you know anybody that's looking for do some volunteer or interested in policing, by all means, our auxiliary, we need to get an increase there. And for notable investigations, there's nothing on here on page 13, Sean, thank you. There's nothing here for Tecumseh. And I'm open to any questions or comments.
Thank you very much. I'll open it to any questions with regard to this report. Paul.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the staff sergeant, I'm just wondering, is there a methodology, like, I mean, our alarms are all seem to be continuing, relatively high, and we're not having a lot of, obviously education doesn't seem to be working. I'm wondering, is there a methodology where we can just basically, you can add it to your records management that you just don't respond to chronic ones, or is there any mechanism for something like that?
No, that we do have to respond regardless, because at one time we don't respond, we might end up with the break and enter, so we will respond to all the alarms. So we do follow up with an alarm notice being served on the community members that have went over 3, and then there's a charge that the town will charge back to them. I know there's previous conversations in regards to that, and I know one of our members is still serving those businesses with alarm notices when they hit the threshold. I believe it's 3, and then they'll start getting charged with that.
Okay.
Yes, please, Paul. Or I'm sorry, Joe.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Jamie, in terms of the auxiliary, in terms of volunteer hours, is there a set time frame? For example, I know some students go back to school, they're done in April. Is that a time where they can reach out to you and say, look, we've got the next 2-3 months, we'd like to volunteer? Are they able to reach out, put a resume in? I'm looking at the ones that are 21, 22 that want to get into, law enforcement.
Yeah, I would say they can reach out anytime. As for the summer months, they could probably put in more hours during those months. I think the commitment's 12 to 14 hours a month. So if they were hired on, they could cover off on weekends for such events like the Optimist Club having Family Day or whatnot. We could have them. We're leaning on a lot of the same members time and time again right now because we're so low, and the hiring practices are being done out of GHQ now. We used to do it locally where we could keep tabs on everything and hold interviews and hire members, but now they want the sole control of hiring the people. So I would say have them put it in. The summer months they could get more hours, and then in the when they're in school and that they could help on nights. Tecumseh Fire Prevention. We had some auxiliary members out there, or on the weekends.
All right, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, I have two. So the bike patrol training that's going on is the object of that, we hope eventually, to put bikes in our parks. Once again, we're in a vandalism of parks, and I'm hoping that bicycle patrols can cut that down. And I'm wondering if that's the aim of the bike patrol training. And
that would be my goal. I mean, that community outreach with the officers out on bicycle patrol, and some of the bikes have sat for a bit, and we've got a member that's very engaged in the cycling world, so he took on that responsibility, and I think moving forward we're going to get more members trained. He reports out of Essex, and you can see that there's bike patrol hours there, so I'm hoping moving forward we can get them out there, because I did read as well about the vandalism at the washrooms once again in our parks, which is very unfortunate.
My second, well, Paul, please.
No, go ahead. I just have a follow up to your first question there, Mr. Chair, to Staff Sergeant. I noticed in the media, across Ontario, there's been media releases regarding municipalities getting grants for CCTV cameras all over the province, and fairly substantial. I was wondering, is that something that Tecumseh we'd be eligible for again, to try and deal with these problems like we're getting with the vandalism?
Yeah,
Margaret,
and I think go ahead.
Maybe I think Margaret has probably a good answer. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have used cameras in various locations. Our limitation is that we can't put them inside washroom facilities where people's privacy could be compromised. So that is a limiting factor with respect to use of cameras for that purpose.
And Jamie, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, I know in the past we've had some video outside, and when damage occurred there, but to Marg's points, having them in the bathroom would be, I guess if they were the only people that went throughout the bathroom overnight, we might have a good suspect there.
Okay. No, just to clarify, I wasn't thinking about in the bathrooms. It was on the exterior, because obviously, I remember the OPP were asking for dash cam video in relation to the, I believe I heard in the media, the damage and that. So if dash cam video is a value, I would think even the camera in the park would be valuable. So that's to my points. Thank you.
Okay, and I have one more question. So I notice our mental health response unit activity has really jumped up. And we've had a really unfortunate issue in Ontario now with the mental health response unit, 2 officers dying. I'm wondering if that causes the Ontario Provincial Police as a group to look at its mental health, look at its methodology of coming into residences, look at the protection of their officers as well as that civilian who is beside, an officer. Have you seen anything coming from Aurelia, or to say, here, look, we really have to take a hard look at keeping ourselves safe?
No, good point, Mr. Chair. I know it would change the way I would do business going to a residence. And I'm not saying, I don't know exactly what happened there that day in South Simcoe with the two officers, but I know responding to a call for service, it's very dangerous. And we're walking into the unknown sometimes. And, you figure it's a 23-year-old male, grandma and grandpa's house. And you walk downstairs thinking you're just dealing with, somebody that's out of control. But it's a different approach, right? Moving forward for all of us, maybe you call that person upstairs and, have their hands out and whatnot. There's been nothing yet. I know we're supporting South Simcoe up in that area with calls for service right now for the funeral, assisting with the funeral arrangements and whatnot. So it's very unfortunate. And it's just, the realities of this job. You never know what you're walking into. You never know what that next vehicle stop is going to be. And, we all go to these calls with trouble with youth or trouble at a home with a family dispute, but you never know what you're walking into, right? It would change the way I would do business of leading a platoon. So absolutely.
Yeah, we've had the discussion before that some of the calls, especially like domestics, they can get out of hand so fast, that husband and wife are at it, and then when the police show up, they become the enemy. You know what I mean? Immediately. So, I agonize over officers who are trying to do such good. Mental health response units. You know what I mean? They're trying their best to keep the community on an even keel and safe, and then, men to lose their lives over something, like it's they're not going into a bank robbery. They're not, they're trying to assist. So it's a big shame. Are there any other questions? Okay, then I would move that the OPP report for the month of August be received. I'm looking for a mover. Thank you, Joe. Seconded by Paul. Thank you, and passed. Okay. We'll move on to reports. OPP zone meeting. That's a zone 6 meeting that was held on October 14th. I have actually asked Paul to prepare the verbal report. The agenda says myself, but I pulled rank a little bit. I was the driver, so that's we evened up the workload. Paul, could you please report? And I have a few comments too.
Sure. Yeah, the Zone 6 meeting was in conjunction with the Zone 6 Chiefs of Police meeting, who hosted it, and which we certainly appreciated their hospitality in organizing that event. It was very well done. We broke off as the boards later in the morning to have our own meeting. We did get to meet our new zone liaison, Ron Leclerc, and he just gave us a brief that he's very involved now in tracking provincial appointees, although thankfully we've skirted around that issue, so that was good news. Then we had, he kind of explained his duties that somewhat changed in that that particular part of the ministry, now that they split it all up, where they have a separate team that audits, a separate team that investigates, and basically his role is a liaison, if I could probably best describe it as that. So it has changed since they moved over to a different part of the ministry. Then Lisa Darling gave us quite in-depth information on what's going on at the OAPSB. They now have 2 lobbyists that are active. One being Bruce Chapman, former president of the POA. They expect the proclamation date to be the 1st in 2023 of the act, but again, there's a lot going on with the regulations. He wants to see zones more actively involved in the training, getting out draft elements of the training to the different zones, and have asked members to participate in evaluating it and getting input before it's rolled out as being the the final training, which is a good thing. She's working on a new strategic plan. They want to build on the brand of the OAPSB with the ministry and our other partners, which is certainly well received. Also suggested that the OAPSB get involved in media training for boards, which is probably a very good idea considering how much the role of boards is changing across the province and rather dramatically what's been happening now in the recent past and in the future. They are updating the OAPSB policy manual, but they also want to see that basically all the boards and the OAPSB manuals are somewhat similar in the content, which is a good, especially with the regulations being developed. And we did get a commitment from our zone advisor that the ministry, when they do start rolling out the regulations as far as changing it with new policies that are going to be required for that board policies along with police service policies, is that like in the past when they rolled out the adequacy standards, they're going to hopefully roll out sample board policies and that for us to help craft, again, to be consistent across the province, but also assist all the boards in with knowing what to develop and what this the meaningful content of those policies should be. They are in regards to the regulations, they are working in conjunction with the Police Associations of Ontario and the Ontario Chief of Police as far as what the content of those. And again, there's certain regulations there where they disagree, and there's a lot but they're trying to get through the ones they agree on first and get those put aside so they can spend the more time with the contentious ones between the organizations. Anyway, the last, I think, thing that we were certainly left with was that the responsibility of police services boards, whether it be Section 10 or 31 across the province, are increasing exponentially. And, we've seen the beginnings of that in Ottawa over the situation that occurred there, but it's something that we can, certainly expect. And the new regulations are going to have somewhat, I guess, little information that we got about the specifics of it, but they're certainly cautioning that there's going to be regulations forthcoming that definitely increase the rules, the responsibility of police services board. So that's my report. Thank you. Chris, you can add to that if you have any.
So just to add a couple of things. Number one, our association has cautioned that liability under the new regulations is going to go up because there's going to be a lot more responsibility, as Paul alluded to. The other thing is that the Solicitor General has said they want to conduct all the basic training for service on a board, and then any other training will be developed by our association. I'm talking with regard to understanding how to do strategic plans, how to do how to do key measurables for your detachment commander or your chief of police, etc. But the basic training, they are going to develop it, and they want to have it so that you cannot be at a police board meeting unless you have taken the training. Consequently, they have cautioned that this year's budget, you may want to look at adding some cost to extended training, board training, not professional development, but board training. So I think that's the things that extra that I had heard out of it. We had a fairly good attendance from some of the Section 31. Usually this kind of tends to be led by the Section 10 boards, but we had good attendance from Section 31s, including we had the acting chief and deputy chief of the Windsor Police Department, as well as 2 members of their police service board. That's not happened very often in the past, so that's good to see their engagement in this. Are there any other questions or comments for Paul? No? Okay, then with regard to that, I would ask that the verbal report by Paul regarding our Zone 6 meeting on October 14th be received. And I'm looking for that to be moved. Thank you. And I guess Mr. Mayor, you better second it because thank you. All in favor, good, passed. We'll go on to section I of our meeting agenda, the communications action required, and there are none. Section J, communications for information purposes. Number 1 is the OPP Municipal Police Board Bureau dated September 29th with regard to our annual billing. I've looked at it. I note that there's a little decrease in the proposed budget. The Solicitor General's letter of October 4th, updating of Community Safety and Policing Act, OPP detachment boards. With regard to that, at our Zone 6 meeting, our zone advisor said that they have already started to send municipalities or detachment groups a letter saying whether they accept their proposal or they rejected it. Several boards have already received theirs. We have not. I asked, Tom Bain was at the meeting. He has not received anything from Lakeshore. We certainly haven't that I know of. So that should be in the works. So it'll be very interesting to see. There still is a great problem with Zone 1A and 1 because their detachments are so far flung that it's just that they're just having a difficult time working on that. But our area, I suspect we'll get some information very quickly. We got 2 letters with regard to the reappointment of our 2 provincial appointees, Paul and Mark, and so we're really grateful for that. It came in a very timely time. It was set for 2 years, but our Zone 6 advisor reminded us that the appointment is to our board. So if under the regulations our board dissolves in order to create a detachment board, those appointments will dissolve with that. So that was just his comment to us. So I think that's all the correspondence. I don't know if there's anything anybody really needs to discuss. So I would move that, or I would ask that the correspondence detailed in the above items be received. I'm looking for a mover. Thank you, Paul. Seconded by Mayor McNamara, and in favor. Before we go on any further, Your Worship, welcome. Is there any comments that you feel you're kind of being blindsided here because we've pushed through a fair piece of the agenda, but I'm just wondering if you've had a busy morning. I know it's a stressful morning, I'm sure. I just wonder if there's anything you wanted to share at this time.
Well, we declared a local emergency on our EMS, and you know, our control group will be meeting this afternoon. For those in the last 2 months in particular, there's been a drastic, and I mean drastic, increase of code blacks and code reds, but mostly code blacks. Last month, we had 470 plus code blacks in 1 month, and that's an increase, almost a 300% increase month over month. And I mean, there's, and the crazy thing is we haven't even begun our flu season, and we don't know what the COVID-19, if there's going to be another wave or not, but we're seeing increases, obviously, in that regards. To give you an example, last Wednesday, we had 26 ambulances at our ER. And some of them were there for as long as 12 hours to offload patients. Some of them we've gone through 3 complete crews to service 1 patient. And so the system needs serious work in that regard. A lot of it too, there's a lot of burnout. Our nurses are burned out, you know, and staffing, even, you know, getting staffing is difficult enough. Recruitments, even on EMS, have gone down, difficult to recruit. And now it's starting to put more pressure on fire and police and dealing with emergencies and so forth. So it was busy all weekend. I mean, I don't do these declares emergencies lightly, but we need to get all the players at the table. So the weakest link is right now is the offload piece. So putting more ambulances on the road is not the answer. So it's a step process, you know, from EMS. But we did get the ministry's attention. Minister called one of our deputy chiefs this morning. And so we said, great, you know, hopefully we'll have somebody from her staff or herself, you know, this afternoon. There'll be a control group meeting at 4 o'clock to start putting some pieces of the puzzle. Give you some context, met in August in AMO, we kind of laid out kind of a synopsis of what we were at and then what we thought would be good to start implementing. That hasn't happened yet, so we're hoping that maybe some of that will start, you know, even to the point where they got to be looking at urgent care centers to be open more than business hours, looking at their practitioners being open more than business hours, you know, setting up clinicians at the dispatch to be able to deal with it as they are certainly dispatched to pick up someone in that regards, and where they can distribute some of those away from ER and because it's really getting to the point where if somebody has a heart attack, a stroke at home, and you got 26 ambulances out of commission, I don't know what police can do or fire except basic healthcare, and so that's where we're at, so I'm sure that we'll keep you posted in those terms, and hopefully we can start putting some plans together to help reduce the calls. The other context is the piece of our ER transport is that go to ER is about 40% of their population that goes there. The average across the province is between 10 and 15%. So you can see the numbers are crazy on our side. So we need to drop that. And last Wednesday, when we had the 26 ambulances, we couldn't get Chatham-Kent, couldn't get Lambton, you couldn't get an ambulance from Woodstock to here. They were all tied up. And so it's not an Essex County problem. It's a provincial problem. So hopefully we can better head, you know, get together and try to find some resolution here. But it's crazy going into flu season. We're not even there yet. So anyway, that's what I've been doing in the last couple of days. So
thank you, Your Worship. And I know it's been stressful, and it's stressful right across the province. And certainly I think what the pundits are saying, that the one thing that COVID has done is that it has brought a sharp light on all the problems with our medical system here in Ontario, right from long-term care to home care to ERs to transport, etc. So I know it's this is not our forum to discuss these issues for sure, but you know, our hearts go out with you, Your Worship. It's I'm sure you're going to be very, very busy looking at this, as all the mayors in Ontario are. So if we can maybe move on to old business, the 2023 police, that's item K, the 2023 Police and Police Services Board budgets. Margaret, I think you're going to speak to this.
Yes, please, Mr. Chair. So I'm just going to walk through the briefing note, and essentially it hits the highlights of the budget that has been provided to the board for its consideration. So just recapping, the OPP contract was renewed in 2021 for a 3-year term. So that goes to the earlier of either December 2023 or the date that the Community Safety and Policing Act comes into force. And as the chair has noted already, The intention is for the CSPA to come into force in 2023 later on in the year. And we'll see if the stars align and that contracts would then be eliminated under the new legislation going into 2024. The contract amount that we've received recently is based on the annual billing statement that was included in the board's correspondence and includes the reconciled amount for 2021. The CSPA regulation governing transition to detachment boards has not yet been finalized. So there's a number of things that we're going to be looking for in those regulations, and hopefully they'll be forthcoming soon. And to your point, Mr. Chair, there probably will be a need for some extra meetings to review those in the coming year. But until we start to see that roll out, it's difficult to predict. So because the transition is expected to occur sometime late in 2023 or early 2024, we've essentially maintained the same format and approach to our budgeting for police services and police service board activity for the coming year. The proposed 2023 budget and business plan will be tabled with Town Council on December 13th, 2023. Council deliberations will take place in January, and with the dates to be determined, with budget adoption scheduled for January 24th of 2023. Because of the timing of our committee and board appointments process with council, there won't necessarily be a chair at that time, or certainly not one that has gone through the full appointment process through the board as well. So I'll provide the overview of the budget at the December 13th meeting as the board secretary. So highlights with respect to our revenues in the police budget. So the Community Safety and Policing Grant 2022 to 25, which supports the OPP's mental health response teams, includes provision for officers' wages. And as reported by Constable Coho at the last meeting and verified with the treasurer for the town of Kingsville, a refund of $75,471 is anticipated to cover wages for year one of this 3-year grant. So that will be factored into the budget. An application for the RIDE program grant term is underway, actually just submitted last week. So that is in play to secure those funds for the coming year. And then revenue for the court security and prisoner transportation program was adjusted to reflect the actual allotment for 2022, which included a decrease of $5,500. In terms of user charges, alarm registration revenue was decreased by $8,000 as a result of revenue sharing, now underway with the community safety department of the town. And OPP reports and clearances revenue was increased by $5,000 based on actual usage, which has been trending higher than forecast. And parking fines have decreased by $3,000 to more accurately reflect actual revenues. So on the expenditure side, the OPP contract amount of $3.28 million reflects a decrease of 3.5%. and includes a debit for the 2021 year-end adjustment of just under $4,400. Additional funds for community policing events, $10,000, and a contingency for the 2022 contract reconciliation of $20,000, which has been our norm the last couple of years to ensure that we have money set aside for that. Also, we note that contract services on the draft budget also includes amounts for the janitorial contract and the RIDE program. So all kinds of cleanup activities is now reflected under that line item. Utilities gas has been increased by $700 to reflect the estimated increase in commodity pricing. And insurance continues to escalate for all town services at the rate of between 15 and 20% a year, which is outrageous, I might add, but nonetheless, an additional $800 or 17.4% has been added to the 2023 budget based on the hard market increase estimated by the town's insurer. So overall on the police budget, we are showing net expenditures in the 2023 budget year forecast at $3.2 million after all is said and done, which is an actual decrease year over year of about 5.3%. So that is a good news budget to provide to the town on policing costs, which are substantial. That is a substantial departmental operating cost for the town. In terms of the police service board, we have I guess the primary change in terms of this budget is professional development, which has been increased by $3,500 or 49.3% over 2022. When a significant one-time corporate-wide reduction in professional development budgets was instituted in recognition of COVID-19 and events, conferences, training, and that occurring remotely instead of in person. But as these types of events continue to reemerge as in-person events, the professional development budget is back to the pre-pandemic amount of $10,600. which doesn't preclude members from participating in events of this nature on a virtual basis. In fact, we would encourage it as a cost-saving mechanism, especially if we're going to be seeing more activity in that area. So overall, on the police service board budget, we are looking at, get the right sheet in front of me, an overall net expenditure for 2023 of $42,366, which represents approximately 10.3% increase year over year from 2022. And that's, as I said, largely because of the adjustment back to the normal level of professional development. So today we are looking for the board's endorsement that the proposed 2023 budget for policing of $3.2 million, reflecting a 5.3% decrease, and for the police services board of $42,366, reflecting a 10.3% increase, be approved by the Tecumseh Police Services Board and be recommended for consideration and approval by Town Council. So if the board is favorable to making that motion, then we will follow up with the presentation for the Town Council to be presented to them on December 13th, 2022, which case all of you are welcome to attend that virtually to view that and any questions of council at that time. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. I just, before we call that motion, I just wanted to say that the Ontario Association of Police Service Boards has stated that they will not go to a hybrid meeting in the future with regard to online and personal attendance. It's going to be personal attendance. The reason being, the last meeting almost bankrupted them to set up online voting and to set up, you know, it was just a massive cost to them. So I just thought I would point that out. So I don't think there's any other comments. I think this is a good news budget with regard to our police budget, and I think it's your worship. I saw your hand come up. Oh,
I'm prepared to move the budget for Police Services Board and our OPP contract.
Well, it's always good when the mayor moves the motion, and I saw Deputy Mayor McKenney. Your hand was up. Seconding it. I think he's on another little conversation right now, but I believe his hand was up. All in favor?
Well, Joe, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Nope.
No, Joe, you're muted, Joe. Frozen and muted. But when Gary made the motion, I saw Joe's hand came up, so I know that he was okay. So it is passed. So there we go. So,
thank you.
Under new business, as Margaret has already stated, that the application through Tecumseh for the RIDE program has already been submitted because it had a short deadline, October 17th. So, Margaret, I don't think you need to cover any more. It's a pretty standard grant that we go at it. It's a 2-year term. So, is there any other new business? Let's do it. Seeing none, our next meeting is scheduled sometime in 2023. As this is our last meeting before an election, which there may be changes to our board. I want to thank everybody for their cooperation and their attendance, and I am very grateful for our members coming here prepared to discuss and prepared to ask good questions. Once again, Jamie, thank you so much for your input. And Alicia, I'm not going to terminate this meeting without giving you an opportunity to speak if you have something you'd like to bring up.
I'm good for now. Thank you, though.
You're quite welcome. Okay, so hopefully next year, Your Worship, please.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you for the opportunity. Jamie, I don't know if it was discussed at any time today prior to me coming on board, but as you know, I released a press release last Friday on the vandalism in our parks and so forth. So maybe just to extend to the members, maybe a little bit of vigilance in those particular targeted parks, and just so that we can kind of keep it to minimum.
Yeah, Your Worship, just to add to that, we already discussed that with regard to there is training going on now with regard to bicycle patrols, and I had said that on behalf of the Tecumseh, that we would like to see bicycles in our parks. It's a good way to move through the park very quickly and come upon people who are maybe up to no good. Margaret, I saw your hand come up, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also wanted to point out to the board and provide a special thanks to the OPP and Jamie in particular for helping us with an investigation on a matter of the municipal elections and the behavior of one of our candidates. They undertook an investigation very quickly, and so we were able to issue a public statement on Friday, so that hopefully for the remaining part of the campaign and voting period, the candidates are aware of appropriate etiquette, and that the Tecumseh residents are aware that the matter was looked at and taken seriously. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. And of course, it goes without saying, as we continue on with police, or someone continues on with police service board meetings next year, we're very much looking forward to meeting our new detachment commander. We would very much like to talk to her and get her view on some of the things that I think have been sticking points and sore points for Tecumseh and certainly all of Essex County. So I think we'll leave it at that. So having seen no other old business, I would look for a motion that being no further business to discuss, that our Monday meeting of October 17th be adjourned. Thank you, Joe, and seconded by Paul. Done. Thank you.